Welcome back to WagerTalk TV. My name is Andrew McInnis, joined by Dave Cokin. This is the KBO betting show. I'm in a different location here today. I'm traveling to a cottage. It's beautiful out here on the east coast of Canada. They opened up an Atlantic bubble, which means we can now travel a little bit. So during the time that I can, Dave, been waiting long enough. We're trapped in the house for a good amount of time. So nice to be able to get out when I can and hopefully still do these shows. So
there you go.
How are you doing? And how are things with you in the KBO?
Everything's fine. I ended up with a push last night. Lucky in one sense, unlucky in the other. It was a 2-0 game going into the top of the sixth, and then 2-2 at that point. And then the Dinos exploded in the seventh inning. Unfortunately, the Dinos bullpen had a good night. They pitched 3 shutout innings, so the game never moved off the 10. But it's a push. I'll take that.
Yeah, they really did turn it on at the end there. I mean, they weren't starting the game putting up big runs, but we saw some in the later half. And that's the funny thing we were seeing, and I think you and I both touched on it on the show yesterday. I've been taking first 5 unders. Why take a first half over though these days?
Oh no, you just don't do it.
Better off letting these bullpens take over here.
Yeah. There's no way I'd even consider a first 5 over.
We'll go in rotation order just like usual here. We'll start things off with the Bears and the Giants. New matchups here today, Dave. Yep. Flexen taking on Hanwha. So what do you think about this matchup? I mean, I look at Flexen coming off a game against Hanwha where he allowed 6 earned runs. So pretty much here's what I'll say. When I see a pitcher coming off a game against Hanwha, right away to me, that's kind of a turnoff. When I see a pitcher coming off a great game against a team like NC, it's kind of it's a good thing. It's a turn on as far as the pitchers go. Looking at these bet on spots. So when I see this spot, you kind of have to ask yourself, geez, against a really poor team, he still couldn't get his act together and get a good game going. But then again, look at Hanwha on the other side. He's given up 5-7 hits in the last couple. I don't think this number is where it should be. This is an outright pass for me. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there before I give it to you. The 10.5 number is kind of makes me scratch my head because we've seen what the Doosan Bears are capable of doing and the amount of runs that they can produce. So for me, this is an outright pass. I don't really have an opinion on this game.
Well, I think Flexen will bounce back. That was his worst start of the year. Just had a bad game. His other 9 starts, he's given up 3 runs or less in each of them. So he's been a pretty steady pitcher. So has also been pretty good. His last 7 starts, 3 runs or less. So you could look at the first 5 as an under possibility in this game. Beyond that, really not enthused about the Doosan bullpen, and the Giants bullpen is so middle of the pack. I think Flexen rates the favorites role, but if I had to pick something here, it'd be the first 5 under.
And I wanted to point out as well, though, I forgot to mention this, Hanwha, 4-1 record, a guy that, like I said, not getting a ton of strikeouts, but, he makes batters work for it. This is a team that has a 26-28 record. So a guy that's 4-1 on a team with a record like that, at least he's been pretty reliable in going out there. And he's so-so for this team. He's
a little lucky, too. He hasn't gotten hurt by the home runs he's allowed. He's given up 9 homers. That's a lot. And Gopher Balls will eventually catch up with you. The other thing, he doesn't get many strikeouts, 27 strikeouts. So he's getting 80% strand rate. That's high. And I think there probably is going to be some correction. He's pretty lucky to be 4-1. So I would give the edge to Doosan here, but at the price, I'm really not interested in laying that number.
This next game is one I was looking forward to chatting with you about. I told you about the terms we would call the game when I was in high school and we were playing intramural sports. When it was the 2 last place teams, it was always actually a really highly anticipated game because it's almost like the battle to not be worse. Who's going to be the last place team? And the funny thing is, Dave, I can't remember the last time we really saw this, but first of all, money is coming in on Hanwha, and secondly, when is the last time we saw money coming in on them as a favorite? Have we seen it this year?
It might be the first time all year. I mean, maybe the first time. Maybe in the first week of the season. I didn't go back that far. But, yeah, it's definitely something different for them. As far as the game goes, the series is interesting from this standpoint. These 2 teams will really battle it out this weekend because this is the only chance they're going to have to win something of note, to beat each other and try and avoid last place. Right now, the Wyverns are 3 games up, 17-39, 14-42. They are the better team, but not by much. You've got 2 pitchers who you've got Jay Kim on one side. He's only had 3 starts. Actually, it hasn't been bad since he started. Hanwha sends their Kim to the mound, and he's been he's had home run problems. His last couple of starts were pretty good. He's had 2 starts against the Wyverns, and they weren't very good. I guess one of them was passable, the other was bad. I don't know what to do with it. I mean, I just read off a bunch of stats, but that doesn't point me to anything. That's I don't have faith in either one of these teams to win the game, and the total looks like it's probably right about where it should be. Maybe if you want to bet something on the game, this might be a spot for an over. Neither pitcher's real good, and
problem is SK is really inconsistent with their scoring right now.
They just don't score. I know it's really tough. I basically scratched this game about 2 minutes after I looked at it, and there's no thought that I'm going to get involved.
The thing is, Dave, I actually built a habit in the NHL, and I know that for promotional purposes, as far as being a handicapper and people watching videos, they want to hear the pick on Washington versus Toronto, big games like that, or Tampa Bay. But you can find profit with the crappy games. And looking at this one here, I remember I dominantly was all over SK in the last time these 2 teams met. But I want to point out that when we look at the way these 2 teams play, I always talk about recent form, but I don't just mean last 3 games, last 10, last 15. I talked with you about how Hanwha was getting embarrassed, finding ways to lose, whether it was walking guys in, a really crappy error, an error that most people just wouldn't make. And now looking at the games that they've played in, if we look back at their last couple of games here, they haven't really been getting blown out as bad. They haven't been getting destroyed. And I know it sounds weird to say that because I'm almost giving them a pat on the back for not losing 10-2, Dave.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say here is that SK isn't much better. There's a reason why, first of all, we're seeing the favorite spot for Hanwha. And I actually like the effort that I've seen from Hanwha consistently. Here's my problem. I think that if you look at recent form and stuff like that, you've missed the number. If you wanted this Hanwha team, you don't want them anymore. And that's the biggest problem, I think, that is, you always said that if there's a game that you'd lean towards Hanwha, you've pretty much stayed off it. And with this opportunity here, I actually did get a piece of Hanwha earlier in the day. But now seeing this number jump up, I will not put it out there to anybody to grab this team at a minus 145, 150 number. It's just way high. It's what I see minus 145 right now for the Hanwha Eagles. And to me, that's just way too high of a number.
I'm not seeing that.
What are you seeing?
130.
I saw 130 and then it moves. Yeah, 2 different books.
I'm looking. That's an oddball line because I'm looking at the major stores. It's 128, 130, 121, 130.
Okay, well, look, I like Hanwha. If you can get minus 125, 130, I like them. And
just went to 131, actually. It just bumped up right now at Superbook to 131. So somebody bet him just now.
And you remember, like me saying just a few minutes ago about how I get a little bit more higher on pitchers when they're coming off a game that they performed well against good teams. Look at Kim Min Woo for the Hanwha Eagles. We're talking NC, we're talking KT, we're talking Doosan. Are those not 3 of the highest and hardest hitting teams in the league? And that has to speak to something. His ERA isn't that great. His WHIP is 1.41. He doesn't get that many strikeouts, but he struck out 8 batters against KT, 6 against Doosan, and he gave up just 3 earned runs against.
He actually is a good strikeout pitcher.
Yeah,
he's over a strikeout per inning. So 54 strikeouts in 50 innings, or 50.1 innings.
I trust Hanwha.
He gets whiffs
more than I trust SK's Kim.
I do too, but it's all yours. There's not a chance in the world I'm laying $130 with a team that's 14-42.
And side for me, look, I think that you can look at it and see the 9.5 and kind of make an argument for either way. I actually I'm on the other side. I would look towards the under in this one just until SK can put some runs.
I'm not going to try and talk you off it.
So. And, it didn't sound like you were too,
No, there's again, I'll just repeat it. There's 0% possibility of playing this game.
At all. Okay, so I'll say that my lean is to the under. I like Hanwha to win the game, but looking forward to this series, Dave. It should be interesting. I believe, to my knowledge, last time these two teams met, SK took 2 of the 3. Is that correct?
Yep.
So we'll see what happens here this weekend during the series. We'll move forwards with the next series. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. I hope the audio is good, Dave. If you can let me know, I hope everything's set up from the new location. But we'll keep moving forward in rotation order. Next game up, Kiwoom Heroes, Kia Tigers. I'm only going to throw one point out to you. There's one thing I just want to say before I throw it to you. Jokic on the mound, the Joker, they put up 4 runs against the Samsung Lions team that hasn't really scored, and they've kind of fallen off a little bit after a good little run. A Kia Tigers team here, coming off a game that scored 10, they've started to pick things up now. So now we look at this contest and we look at the pitching matchup. You got to think. I mean, Yang hasn't been good for Kia.
He's having a terrible season.
But Choi Wante, young 23-year-old pitcher, coming off a game against KT, 4 earned runs, but he shut out Kia the last time he pitched against them. How do we look at this totals-wise, Dave? Because when I saw this one, my gut reaction was actually to run the over.
Well, this is, by the way, is the big line mover of the day. Kia opened 125, Kia favored, and now it's 120 the other way. So there's money on the Heroes here. Yang's, he's one of the mystery pitchers this year. And this guy was 18-6, or 16-8, I beg your pardon, 16-8, with a 2.29 ERA last season. He was one of the best pitchers in the league. This year he's 5-5, and he's lucky to have that record because his ERA is sky high. It's in the mid-5s. His metrics aren't much better. He's just not.
And he's not lasting long in games either.
No, he's worked the 58 in the third innings at 11 starts. That's not real good. He's just having a bad season. 2 of his last 3 starts were not good. He had one effort against Kiwoom that wasn't also. Actually, he's had 2 efforts against them, and those weren't particularly good. He's just having a bad season. And, he's obviously capable of doing a lot better job because you see what his numbers were last year. But at some point, you have to throw out last year's numbers and say, boy, it's a different season. Troy's been, he's been all right. He's a middle-of-the-pack pitcher. He's a prototypical number 3 starter in this league. He does, however, have 2 really good games against this opponent. You mentioned 2 starts back, threw one hit shutout ball over, I think it was 7 innings. The other start wasn't bad either. So he's done very well in his matchups against Kia. And Kia's just not the same team without the 2 middle infielders. They did put together some offense last night, but they're not playing real good ball right now. I don't disagree at all with the money coming in on Kiwoom. I was surprised they went off as the dog in this game, or at least opened as the dog in this game. I think the line now is probably where it should be.
Yeah, but for me, I actually don't like where Kiwoom sits right now in the standings. Their pitching is good, from start to finish, but I don't know if we can count on some other guys getting run support on a night in, night out basis. Talk about the injuries and some missing guys from Kia's lineup. Will that matter against a team that just scored 4 runs when their best pitchers on the mound? You can't just take a night off. I'm not going to put so much pressure on just 4 runs, but it seems to me I'm always fearful to back this team because unlike a lot of other teams in the KBO, 5 runs scored, Dave, is actually a lot of runs for this team. They don't put up massive numbers. They have before, but I'm not going to count on them to do it. And same with Kia, really.
Well, I look, Kiwoom didn't have a great offensive night last night, but it's not like 4 runs is horrible.
Yeah. In this league,
the other guy pitched well last night. Good pitching still going to beat good hitting. No, I like the Heroes' form. They look like the second best team in the league right now. And one other thing, by the way, they do have for what it's worth, they do have the best bullpen in the league.
Definitely, statistically,
yeah,
I believe they do have the best pitcher in the league. So for me, look, I'm going to. I like the over 9 just because I expect to see some turnover here and some runs from both teams. From Kiwoom, I like Kia's offense, but I don't like Yang. So that's kind of what makes me like this over more than any side in this. I expect some runs from them, but I expect some runs from both sides with the pitching. And I don't think either pitcher is great by any means. But I want to ask you, Dave, real quick, because we haven't really touched on this too much in the season. Obviously, what we're seeing is what we're going to get, which is a very basic saying a lot of people see. But you referenced sometimes last season from what we've seen from certain guys, and it's nice to know how somebody was before. How do you look at that? Like,
I don't
take that into account at all?
Well, early in the season, I do. But now we're more than a third of the way through the season, and it's time to just look at this year. Now, if somebody starts putting it together, if in this case Yang, if he starts putting it together, then maybe you could say, well, he might have a big regression in the right direction in the second half of the season. But I'm going to have to see a couple of decent outings from him, and they're just not there right now. He's he's basically having 2 bad outings for every good outing.
Yeah, because you and I just started really covering this league this year,
right?
So basically, we're looking at these guys how we're seeing them ourselves. We're looking at the stats for sure, what we saw last year, but we're going to use our own eyes and watch the games and see what we're seeing with our own stats this year and not base it off last year.
Right? Well, last year's dead, and I'm not seeing the guy who was 16-8, 2.29.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking too. Looking to bet over with him, so we'll see how it goes. Samsung Lions, KT Wiz. I got to give you some credit, Dave, because it's something that you said, and I started to think about it as well, and I'm really starting to think about it now. I'm not sure if you know what I'm going to say, but this is a team that might slip now. And it was after a tough loss.
Yep.
You had as one of your best bets. I had a little piece of it as well. We talked about how it can be deflating, momentum-wise, team-wise. Some teams are just go on runs. Some teams will win every 2 out of 3, or every win one, lose one. This is a team that's going to be up and going to be down. And now I think they're going to be down. They're catching a KT team that's actually been putting up some runs. They've been scoring. I got a bet on this team. Shout out to Freddie Mills. He does great work. I always give him a little mention here. This team has faced 15 left-handed starting pitchers this season. During that run, they've averaged 7.5 runs per game. And the over 5.5 team total has cashed 11 out of 15 occasions. Freddie with a great little knock there with that stat. I already liked KT before, and that just made me like it even more. I mean, Cuevas, a guy that I'm going to just ignore, a guy that, coming off against Kiwoom, 7 hits. It is what it is because he only gave up, he gave up 5 earned runs, but it was a competitive game and didn't actually get a result in that one for himself. So both teams were scoring. But other than that in the season, he's looked strong. A 1.23 whip. I think he's just been involved in high-scoring games. You just look at the games that he's been in. It's just been one of those things. It's kind of like how this league really is, especially at the start of the year. It was really a high-scoring league. Yoon Dong, though, you can't really knock him either. The problem with this guy is
I will. He's been really lucky.
Yeah,
his analytics.
Look at who he's played too.
His analytics are not good. They're just not good. I mean, the walk to strikeout ratio is bad. The FIP is terrible. He doesn't go more than 5 innings, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He's pitched, I believe he's pitched 5 innings in every one of his starts.
I don't want to back
every one of his 5 starts. So you're talking about a bullpen that suddenly slumped because the bullpen for Samsung had been strong, but it's gone real bad the last week. So they're probably going to be looking at 4 innings of work. And I don't like that. And Samsung, off the bad loss 2 days ago, had another loss yesterday. The Wiz, they lost yesterday, but they've been playing better baseball lately. I'm not real thrilled about Cuevas. I don't think he's particularly good. I think he's middle-of-the-pack pitcher. But I would give him the edge here. I'd give the team form edge to the Wiz as well. Unfortunately, it's $1.75, but that's the side I would look at here. You might want to go the -1 route. You might want to parlay them with somebody else you like. But this looks like a pretty good spot for the Wiz.
I mentioned the stats for them with the runs that they're scoring, but second in the league with a .31 average versus Southpaws and first in home batting average against lefties. This is something you can't ignore. I was talking with somebody about KBO on Twitter last night. anybody that knows me, they should know that I'm the situational guy. I look for a spot that sets up. I'm not a major stats guy, but when some things stick out, I'm gonna look at it. And you're gonna tell me when this team faces left-handed hitters or pitchers, they perform better. Why is that something that I would ignore? We have somebody here asking me to put it to repeat the stat line. I'll just do it real quick. 15 straight games against 15 left-handed pitchers on the season. I've averaged 7.5 runs per game, and on 11 out of 15 occasions, they've cashed the team total. This KT team is it seems like they're just comfortable in high-scoring games, Dave.
No, they have to be because their bullpen stinks. So, I mean, they all stink, but theirs is worse than most. Look, they're playing better ball. They almost made it to 500. They would have been 500 if they won yesterday, but they're kind of feeling their way back into the race. And this is a big series for them because these are two teams that are battling to get to that fifth spot. Samsung has the edge right now, but again, I mentioned this yesterday. I think the Lions could be a team that might be ready to decline a bit. I think they've been playing over their heads. We'll see.
Well, this is one of those games too. Like you mentioned, look at the standings. We got a team, Samsung 30-27, KT 27-29. However, a KT team coming in here, putting up runs consistently. A bad game for them is when they're scoring just 3 or 4.
Yeah,
7-3 run for them. I know you said Cuevas isn't an ace by any means. He's middle of the pack. He's not bad.
No, he's a number 3 starter. He's not one of the foreign pitchers that's going to be an ace. He's not terrible. He's okay. He doesn't kill himself with walks, which is a plus because that's such a bad. You see it too often in this league. Too many guys with walk issues. He's only walked 12 guys in 48 innings, so he generally doesn't beat himself. You got to beat him. I would definitely classify him as the better pitcher in this matchup.
I see it as a bet on spot. I look for -1 here to get the better odds. Don't want to be laying that chalk. Zach Davis in here said, put in a parlay with Dinos and Bears, KT Lions over. Good luck with that. Chad, Elliott, Zach Davis again. What about the over? Positive attitude all day. Zach Davis, I got to give you a little shout out here. Been in the chat box every single day. Very loyal. V. Barry, good to have you back here. He says, I lean KT because they crushed left-handed pitchers, but I'm not betting a side. I'll look to bet the team total overs. Honestly, if you can do it, bet that.
It's probably a smart bet.
A lot of people can't for some reason. If you should. In this day and age, Dave will have his lessons that he gives everybody or stuff that he says to people. Here's what I'll say. As a young person that's trying to break into this industry, I'll tell everybody, if you're young, you have to have numerous books, not just one, not just 2. You have to have a lot of spots, but not just that.
You're betting with one book. You're basically giving away money.
Yeah, and not even just that. There's the book that I'm affiliated with that a lot of people probably know that I promote and stuff like that, where there's props, and it's a good one for Canadians, withdrawals, deposits. Maybe you don't like props, and that's okay. But if you do like them, find a book that's going to support you with some good ones. If you like to bet team totals and you hear us talking about it, it's not our fault that your book doesn't provide it. That's all I'm going to really say. Dustin in here, Elliot, somebody here with the username Focus on Your Bets. He said he loves that stat line. Remember, a stat line doesn't mean it's always going to be a win. I want to make that clear. I mean, it's good to have a positive stat line and a cool stat like that to find on a spot, but it doesn't mean it's always going to win. Opportunity here. With the NC Dinos with Rasinski, 7-1, 2.3 ERA, taking on the Twins here. Twins coming off a game where they got absolutely shut out. Alcantara, he moves now 8-1. Dave, what are your thoughts on this new matchup?
Well, and this has been mentioned a few times. The Twins have a great record against the 2 worst teams in the league. They're well under 500 against everybody else. So they've feasted on the weak teams and gotten beat on a regular basis by the better teams. And they're facing a better team here. They're still short-handed. Twins have had a lot of injury issues. They got 5 guys that are on the DL right now. And it's really showing. The offense just isn't there. And they're facing one of the best pitchers in the league in Rasinski, who's given up 3 or less runs in 10 of his 11 starts. So, the Twins are going to have to get a really good pitching performance, one would think, from Lim to have a good chance this game. He might give it to him. He's been a pretty solid pitcher. if you break down all his starts, he's only got, I think, 4 quality starts, but he's kept them in the game. His FIP is under 4, which in this league is really good. So he's not getting blown out on the stats by Rosinski, but he's certainly not winning those stats either. And every other edge goes to the Dinos, except for the bullpen. And it's not like the LG bullpen is dynamite either. It's certainly a game where you can justify the Dinos being strong favorites, and they are at $1.75. That's going to price me out of it, but there's no chance I'd take the dog in this game. It'd be Dinos or pass for me. That means Dinos probably in a parlay would be what I would recommend.
Oh, I wanted to point out as well, you remind me of talking about the parlay. We mentioned looking at some of these guys. Yeah. We saw Samson get the job done. We saw the Joker get the job done. And, we saw Alcantara get the job done. For myself personally, I went Kiwoom and NC. So cash with those 2 teams. But it's funny because I don't like to usually promote parlays, but stick to 2-teamers is what I'd really tell people. 2 or 3, try and get some good odds.
You get as far as point spreads go, you actually get a truer odds on a 3.
On 3?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, guys.
Tough to hit.
Yeah, exactly. Once you cash them, you feel a little bit better. I wanted to point out another stat here that I found through Freddie. He talked about the first 5, and I've actually looked at bet NC first 5 quite a bit. But the funny thing is I mentioned in NBA, you hear people say the term big 3, the best 3 players. We've got Rosinski, Wright, and Koo for the NC Dinos. And then with the other pitchers, you can decide how you want to play it, over or a value play with them with better odds or fade them. But with this team now, maybe you want to isolate the first 5. Maybe you don't want to get the bullpen involved.
And especially with that pen, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at this team, the LG Twins, first 5 for them is 9, 16, and 5 on the season. 9, 16, and 5. They're off to bad starts. They don't score early in games. NC is 7, 2, and 1 first 5 innings, and Rosinski starts on the season, and 7, 2, and 1 their last 10 first 5s. They're also doing well on the road. And a lot of times you can actually get much better numbers with these plays in the first 5 innings. And you take a look at it, you can get a -0.5 for -140 from this team. And right now, we've actually seen the Dinos score pretty early on in games. So we didn't see it yesterday. Runs late in the game, but not early.
First 5 is very high on the money line, though. It's -200. So, you're talking a low of 155, a middle of 175 on the full game, and -200 on the first
I'm
5.
saying like -185, -190. Yeah.
Now you still, if you have, and this is why, again, we talk about multiple outs. If you got, in Las Vegas, you can bet at the Superbook, -1.5 runs is +105.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Pick spots and find different areas to place your bets is obviously super important. V Barry says take the -0.5 if you're willing to take that. The only problem with that is, which is the most point blank obvious reason, is that you don't get enough time. You don't, they might screw you over and score a run in the 6th inning. I know a few people that are really big first period over bettors in the NHL. First period's the lowest scoring period, statistically. How many times have I personally or had known somebody else? We had a 1-0 game, Dave, going into intermission, 18th minute, 2 minutes into the second period, they get a goal. That's the problem with singularly betting a period or a first 5 or 1 run. That's why a lot of people, the majority of people, bet the full game, and I'm sure we can all understand that. However, it's like Dave's been saying, this NC team, they're going to have to pick up a couple bullpen guys at the trade deadline. When did you say it was?
I think so.
It's the 15th of August, correct?
Yeah, August 15th, right.
Yeah. So I wonder who they'll target. It's going to obviously be a bottom feeder, but that'll have to make their team a lot more well-shaped and well-rounded to go out there and get them. But it's a big, juicy price to grab that. But Rosinski has looked pretty good recently. I think it's a good spot for him against Lim. Coming off a game where he didn't play. He gave up 9 hits against a Samsung team. Mind you, that was during the time where Samsung was looking pretty good. But sometimes when NC, loses a game, next game they put up a big performance, and now they're playing an LG team that just got off a shutout. They just came off by getting shut out. I mean,
they got dominated. I mean, they really got dominated by Alcantara in the game this morning.
Yeah, he's a good pitcher, so I can give him the excuse, I guess.
He just blew him out though, and now they have to go against another really good pitcher. And it's a tough stretch for this LG team.
Yeah, life won't be easy for the LG Twins. I'm going to go ahead and pull trigger on that. I actually like the way you were thinking with the -1.5. Give me better odds. And we've seen this team win at margin. If you were to trust a team to win by margin in this league, one of them is probably going to be the NC Dinos.
Well, they would be the one because they're plus 86 runs in the season, and that's well more than anybody else.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, I appreciate you for tuning in. This is the KBO Betting Show. It is July 9th. We'll see you tomorrow for the last show of the week. Good luck with your wagers. As it says in the bottom of the page, grab a package from both Dave and I listed at WagerTalk.com. Free plays are either on my profile page or tweeted out. And I'll put it right up here right now. If you're watching this video, if you're new to the channel, we are almost to 50,000 subscribers. Help us reach that goal. Hit the subscribe button. Put that bell on so you know when we're live. We had somebody in the chat or in the comments saying, how do I get on the live chat? How do I talk to you guys live? You got to tune in at the exact time that we're live, 4 o'clock Eastern time, and give us a chat between Dave, between myself. Usually we're reading the comments section. Jeffrey, Daniel, Kelly, B. Barry, Chad, Michael, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Dave, have a great night.
You too.